Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So let us get started. So let me share my screen. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's continue. So this so we on the Saturday special class we had looked at a few ways in which we can compute VC dimension for several hypothesis set. So that concluded the discussion on VC dimension. So in the statistical learning theory, so we were looking at several aspects, right? So the first thing we studied was pack learning, right? Pack learning. And pack learning, of course, has different flavors, but the one that we chose was classification and no noise, right? When there is no noise, obviously there is a God-given classifier. The second aspect that we saw was for empirical risk minimization. Here, we looked at, again, classification and not necessarily noiseless, so possibly noisy. Okay, then we looked at what is meant by consistency. Okay, what is meant by uniform convergence. Okay, then we saw, we saw basically what is meant by VC dimension, and we saw several examples, VC dimension and examples, right? So these were the two other aspects. So we have completely finished these two. So the third part that we were studying, that was bias variance trade-off. So that is what we will continue here. So in the bias variance trade-off, what we had was a model. Let me write the model for everyone's reference. So you have the feature space X. Okay, and from the feature space X, and then you also have what is called as a target function. So so that is Y is equal to some f of x plus epsilon. This epsilon is the noise. Epsilon is noise. Okay, so this feature space inputs into this. From this we get, so the samples that you get from here is the regular Tx distribution. So epsilon adds the noise, right? So if you want to visualize this, so you can think of like a linear model like this with some Gaussian noise, right? So this is how you can visualize it. Okay, so this f of x here is basically the linear model. F is the linear model. So this line continues, but so this is what we had, and then as usual we have the samples. So samples, now we are calling it as D, which is xi, yi, I going from 1 to n samples are there. And then from these samples, what we do is we put this into a learning algorithm. Okay, the learning algorithm also takes into input a hypothesis set. And of course, there is a loss function. So this is like 0-1 loss, LMS, least mean square loss, we chose here. Okay, and then final output is some hypothesis H, which we would like to be as close to F as possible, right? So this is the entire learning model. So few things that we did a little differently in this particular discussion is that instead of talking about, so when we looked at in the empirical risk minimization framework, so here, let me just write what is it that we are looking at. So in this setup, we are looking at regression, right? So we are looking at a regression problem. Then the loss function that we are looking at is LMS loss. So least mean square loss. Okay. So basically what you will do is if you want to evaluate the performance on a sample, you will look at how it deviates from y. Okay, so y is fx plus epsilon. I will write all of that, but yeah, anyway. So these are the two things. And then we looked at, so in the context of ERM, we had HN hat, right? So in the context of bias variance trade-off, we will replace this with G of D. Okay, so both these things, both these quantities are random, right? Because depending upon the data sample, it will change, right? So this is random. So if you want to evaluate the performance of this, we called it in this setup as E out of GD. In the other setup, we called it as R of HN hat. So yeah, so this R of HN hat is out of sample performance. So this is again out of sample. In sample is as usual in of GD, and in the context of ERM, it was called as RN hat of HN hat. So all of these things are like just a change of names, but they are essentially the same. Okay, so now since GD, so this entire quantity, okay, this is random on the sample, right? If you give a different sample D, you will get a different performance E out. So for that also we saw an example in the last class. So how is this GD random? So let us take a simple example. So suppose we have two cases. One is this, okay, and another one similar, very similar. The underlying model F is linear, but now depending upon the samples that you get, the resulting classifier, sorry, the resulting function that you will learn, one of this is this, right? Just based on 2 points, if we consider a line, so you will get entirely different results. So E out, so this is E out of GD, like GD1, right? And this is E out of GD2. Okay, so based on what samples you get, so in this case we got samples as these 2 points, and in the other case we got the training sample as these 2 points. So depending upon what points you get, your entire performance can change quite drastically. Okay, so are there any questions up until this point?
No, sir.
Everyone else is also clear here? Yes? Okay, good. All right, so this is what we had, and then we looked at basically, so since this can be a random, so the correct way to compare two different hypothesis class is to look at expected value. Okay, so just to put that it is expected value, I have emphasized it with a like a bold E. Okay, expected value of E out of GD. Okay, so this is coming from some hypothesis H1, okay, and you have to compare this with expected value of E out with some other GD, which is coming from some other bag H2. Okay, so yeah, so this is what you would like to compare, and you need to decide amongst whether you will use this bag or you will use this bag. Okay. So as I told you before, empirical risk minimization gives you one picture of the story. This is also going to give you the same picture, but it will take you in a different path. Okay, so yeah. So then we saw in the last class again, so we saw that expected value, so here the expectation is taken over D. Okay, so expected value of, so D and epsilon, right? Because epsilon is also a component that will add, right? So this epsilon can, if the noise that I'm adding is not too much, then the error that I make will not be also too much. So epsilon is an important factor, right? So if it is epsilon is 0, then every 2 point will learn the same F, right? So epsilon is also an important factor because that adds some kind of variability into the performance, right? So So E out of, so GD, right? So this if we do, so we saw that this actually breaks down into d epsilon. So the E out is taken on the X, right? So if you remember, when we looked at the risk of a classifier, we took an expectation, right? So the same we took an expectation of X comma Y, but the Y component, that noise is coming as part of this. Okay. So this will be, what is this? So this will be something square, right? So this will be Y minus GD of X whole squared, right? So this is what it was. And then we did a few steps. This becomes f of x plus epsilon. So in the last class, I think I did it GD minus Y, but that doesn't change anything too much. So that's not a problem because there is a square anyway. So we got this, right? And then when we expanded this, right? So first what we did, we interchanged this. So we put this ahead of this. Okay, so first thing that we did is interchange these operations. See, if you remember, interchanging operations, like when we discussed how interchanging limits can change things drastically, those are all the issues that we need to be careful of when we are interchanging any mathematical operations. But in the case of this example here, because in this case we can actually do it. Okay, so some cases you can do it, some cases you cannot do it, but in this particular case you can do it. So you can interchange these things. So any case, so we interchange this and then we worked out a series of steps. So at the end of it, what we got was this became expected value of x, f of x minus g bar x whole squared plus expected value of x. Okay, so we got, so expected value over d, okay, here. So gd of x minus g bar of x whole squared, and there is an expected value of x like this also. Okay, and then finally we got expected value over epsilon of epsilon squared. This is nothing but the variance, which is the noise. So we call this as sigma squared. This term is now the variance of the H, and this term is the bias. So I hope all of you went back and checked this calculation and we got this. So I hope this is not very new to you. So expected value of E out of GD is this. Okay, so in today's class, what we will do is we will look at a simple problem. So essentially we will take this picture and then we will apply this idea of bias variance trade-off for a very concrete problem. Okay, and in that problem we will understand how this changing different hypothesis bag will have a role to play. Okay, so let me go back here, let me copy this. Lasso select. Okay. Okay, so in this class, we will look at an example. So the example is as follows. Okay, so this is the critical example. If you understand this example, you will understand the bias variance trade-off fully. There will be no confusion. Okay, so please pay attention. Ask enough number of questions so that everybody else also is benefited. Okay, so in the example, we need to choose every component here, and then I need to tell what happens. Okay, so every component let us pick. So first, the target. So target f of x is going to be sine of pi x. Okay, So that is the target. My feature space X, so my X's are going to be lying in -1 to 1. The distribution over that is uniform. Okay. My epsilon is going to be 0, which means it is a noiseless case. Okay. So then my data resource D is going to be 2 points from the model. 2 points from the model, which essentially means some x1, y. So basically, let me write that x1, y1 and x2, y2. Okay, just 2 points. So then my learning algorithm and my hypothesis. So learning algorithm is going to be linear regression. Okay, so the loss function, learning algorithm, let me write LA, and the loss function will be least mean square loss, everything whatever you have studied usually. Okay, and now here we will look at two different cases. Okay, so first case H1, and then we will have another case H2. So H1 will be constant hypothesis. This is one. Okay, and the other one H2 will be linear hypothesis. So the question is, we would like to compare. The central question here is question, which of the following is true? Okay, one, H1 is better than H2. That is one. Question number two, one of the two only has to happen. H2 is better than H1. Okay, what is the meaning of H1 is better than H2? Okay, so that is everybody will have their own view, but we are not we know better. We are not going to just say H1 is better than H2 based on our preconceived notions. We will just say based on solid math what it should be. So essentially, if this is better than this question is same as saying expected value of E out of GD for H1. Okay, this has to be bigger than expected value of E out of GD of H2. Okay, and in the same way here, this is the saying that expected value of E out of GD H2 should be better than the other one. Okay.
So should the inequality be reversed?
H2 is better, right? So yeah. So in this case, we are trying to find the best means minimum, right? So which is making lesser error. Thank you. Who was that?
Sir Siddharth.
Oh, thank you, Siddharth. Yeah. So basically, this is correct, right, Siddharth?
Yes, sir.
So basically, we want to make less error, right? So whichever is lesser is better. Okay, thanks. All right. So are there any questions here? So does everybody understand this setup? So look at this full page and see if you have any questions. Okay, so I'm assuming everyone understands this. So now, if you like to, let us try to understand H1 and H2, right? So first, let us draw how it will look. So let me just for a moment switch to another software for drawing. Okay, there is a benefit that we will get to go to this software. So, okay, so here, yeah, so let me just draw this. I think I drove too big. Let me just start off with this. Okay. Okay, so this is what it is. So this is minus +1, this is 0, this is -1. Okay, so it is coming over here like this. Okay, so this picture is important for us. So now, so this is the target, right? So we don't see this like this. What we are given is 2 points. So for instance, I may get a point like this. So let me choose a little bit bolder thing. So I will get a point like this, okay, too bold, and another point like this, right? So this is the way I will get points. So depending upon what underlying model you are choosing, it will drastically change what you will learn, right? Okay. So let us try to understand what type of models we will learn for each of these things. So if I am using H1 and H2, things will change. So H1 here and H2 here, right? So what was H1? I don't remember what was H1. H1 was constant. So if I try to learn constant, so basically what will happen? What is the best constant hypothesis that fits this? Can someone tell me?
X-axis.
Yeah, x-axis or between this point and this point, you try to find out what is the midpoint, right? So the error, if you remember, right? So error at these 2 points, in is what we are maximizing. In is going to be 1/2 summation, right? Constant minus constant minus yi whole squared, right? I equal to 1 to 2. So there are these 2 points. Remember, this is my E in. So that is, I will choose a C which maximizes that. So that happens to be the midpoint of this.
It's slightly above the x-axis. Yes.
Yeah, slightly above the x-axis. Yeah. So let me draw that. Okay. So this is E in, and so one thing is sure, E in is not equal to 0. Okay. So now, how about H2? Can someone tell me what H2 will be?
A line passing through those 2 points.
Yeah, thank you. So this will be the line passing through those 2 points. Okay. So let me just yeah, let it be there. It's a little bit, it has exceeded my box, but that's fine. Okay. So H2 is this. Here, what is E in?
0.
Yeah, very good. So here E in is 0. Now, if I want to measure E out, I have to see what is the true thing for every x, what is the true thing, and how much what I am saying, and take it square, right? So I have to take this difference and square it. Okay. So pictorially, even so if you want to visualize the error, so this will be this region. And for this fellow, this difference will be, yeah, so here I have to do it properly. This is the error in this region, and in this region this is the error, in this region this is the error, and in this region this is the error. So I'm not saying that you add up these errors, you have to square each point, integrate it, square it, and then add. Okay, but pictorially, more light blue points are there, more if this error, if this shaded region is more, you will get more error. Okay, so this is how it performs. So now this is on these 2 data points. Some other 2 data points, it can be completely different. So let me do one more example, just for the benefit of clarity. Okay, so now I will first erase this fellow. Okay, color eraser. No, I don't know what this does. Eraser, there's a simple eraser somewhere. Okay, I don't know where there's an eraser. So let me just delete them. Okay, so yeah, so let us pick another 2 points just to get a good idea what's happening. So you can get points like this also, right? So let me pick a few other points. So suppose I get point 1 like this, another one like this. So similar here and here. So now you can see this guy will be here, but our line that thing will be like this. Okay, so this is the line that you will learn. This is what you will learn in the constant. So the error now, if I want to plot, right? So this will be, this entire thing is error, right? And this is the error. So I hope you can now visualize what type of errors each of these bags are performing. Okay, so now let's talk about the average hypothesis. So let me copy these diagrams over because I think it will be useful. Okay. So now coming to the average hypothesis. So if I were to ask what is G bar for the bag 1 and what is G bar for the bag 2. So let us go back to this figure, right? And I will just copy this again. Okay, I think I'll just copy this from here. I don't think it has worked. Anyway, so let me just draw the G bar here. So this is what we wanted to learn. So let's. So this was the function. The G bar for each of these things, what it will be if you want to do. So that will be for one of them, it will be this. Okay, for the other one, it will be this. So what is G bar? Definition of G bar. So G bar is actually expectation over all possible ways in which you can take 2 data points. Okay, and take its average. So these are the 2 G bars. So this is for H1 and this is for H2. Okay, so if you look at the errors that is made by G bar, this error is quite significant compared to these errors. These errors are not much. Okay, so that is understandable, right? Because G bar for the H2 bag, since our linear class is a little bit more richer class, it is able to reduce the average hypothesis does better. Okay, this region that is shaded is lesser in the average hypothesis in comparison to the constant hypothesis. Okay, so are there any questions here? Is the discussion up until this point clear? Can I just quickly do a poll? Yes.
So H2 is a better bag than H1.
In the context of if you look at G bar, okay, if you look at G bar, so what is G bar? So if you look at the bias variance trade-off business, G bar is one of the errors, right? So this is the average that I can get, okay, in terms of what is the average hypothesis, how well that captures f of x. In terms of bias, this is better. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, sir. And G bar here was the x-axis and G bar in the second case was the diagonal.
G bar in the second case was that diagonal, correct? And one is the x. Yeah, yes. Why is it? It's not something that I just told. It is easy to understand that this is the one, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because if you take average over several lines that you may get over this data set, you will get
middle one. Yes,
yeah. Okay, so far Yeah, so Ankit, a few people have said yes. How about the others? Everyone is okay so far? Yeah, all of you have said actually. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so that is good. So let us look at a small demo for this. Okay, so let us look at a small demo. So this is the same thing. So we have the sinusoid x of pi. So we are picking a sample uniformly between -1 and 1. I will share this code with you. You can go through it later. Then, so if you like to, so this is the model, right? And if I draw several points on it, it will lie perfectly on the set. This is noiseless. But unfortunately, we don't get all of these points. We are getting exactly 2 points. Okay. So when we get 2 points, and if I am trying to learn linear hypothesis, so I'm still in the linear world, remember? So if I try to learn linear hypothesis, suppose if I get these 2 points, this is the line I will learn. Okay, I hope this is the same discussion that we have done. And if I repeat this over several runs, you can see these are all the lines I will get using the linear hypothesis. And you can see that it is kind of getting concentrated. More and more of this will lie in the center. So if you take average of this, you will get the x-axis. Rohit, now does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so does everybody understand why the average hypothesis is this one? So if you take several samples, the best, there is no particular line this model prefers except the line that is along the x-axis, because sometimes there will be up one line will come, sometimes there will be a line coming in the bottom. They tend to balance out, and the one that remains throughout, what gets emphasized over and over again, is the line that is along the x-axis. So this is only 2 points, and then we have done this. So now one question to the class. So if I want to estimate some some quantity like E out, right? So I want to estimate expected value of E out. How does one go about doing such a thing? How does one do it? If I want to compute an expectation, how does one do it?
Take lots of samples and test it.
Yeah, so that is definitely the one way. Or you can of course take what is the distribution of D epsilon, and then you can compute it manually as well. Okay, so in the simulation, as you can understand, we have actually taken a lot of samples and we have done it. Okay, so what that gives us is these 2 important parameters. So let us now write this down. Okay, a little bit. So you can, I will share the code. You can see what each of these steps are, but it is actually trying to compute what is the total E out in terms of what is the bias and what is the variance. Sigma square, what is the value of sigma square in this case? Can someone tell me?
Sir, 0.
Yeah, so this component doesn't come. Okay, so now for the bag H1, what did we get? Let me write that. So for H1, bias of H1 is 0.499. Okay, variance of H1, we got, what was that? 0.243. Okay, so now we will do something similar for H2. So is there any question in this this particular code? Does everybody understand this perfectly?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I'm just hearing from Rohit. I will take it that everyone else also is following along. Okay. Yes, can I do that? Can someone else also say something?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay, very good. So now moving on to the linear hypothesis. So sinusoidal target with linear hypothesis, the same business. I have again copied down the same code. Again, there are only 2 resources. Given any 2 points, I will get lines like this, right? Sometimes I will get line like this, but this is a good line because it is having a trend which is more or less similar for the entire shape. It is like a favorable line. But if I do it over several runs, I will get lines all around the place, something like this. Okay. Right. So why will I get this line here? Because I got these 2 points from for my training. Right. Why did I get this line? Because I got these 2 points for my training. Okay. So these lines represent how I will get different lines depending upon what is the distribution of X. So since it is uniform, you will get all two lines are all 2 points can come, any 2 points can come in the same chance. So you will get a bunch of things like this. Okay. So now if you look at the average, it is this line. Okay. So this average is in such a way that there is this error that you are getting here is minimized. Okay. So this can probably shift a little bit up. I have not taken enough samples because of which it is slightly come down, but that is okay. Don't get too concerned about that. But the line will be also something very desirable. So this one clearly you can see that this will make less error than the x-axis, right? The x-axis one was what we got from linear hypothesis. So this line will give slightly better performance than the x-axis line. And if you see what is the bias, we get this number. So let us write that. Bias of H2 is equal to 0.2189 and variance of H2 is 1.708. Okay, so now which of the two models is better and why? Which among the two model is better and why?
H1, because bias plus variance is lower for H1 than H2.
Yeah, so expected value of E out, okay, for GD, okay, of coming from H1, this one is a lower quantity than expected value of E out for the H2 bag, right? So if I completely stop writing this one, so bias plus variance is less than bias plus variance of this, right? So this quantity is smaller than this. So as a result, H1 is better. Okay. But there are a few things that you have to say. Okay. So in terms of bias, which is better, in terms of variance, which is better. So let me write H1, H2, okay, bias in terms of variance and in terms of total. Okay. So in terms of bias, which is better? Don't look at the figure, look at the number, but intuitively. Yeah, so in terms of bias, H2 is better, right? It's because it's a more complicated model. So the best approximate, the best thing that from H2 will beat the best thing from H1. Okay, so in terms of variance, H1 is better because there are fewer number of things in H1. H2 goes all around the place, right? So if you remember how H2 things came, some points were like this, so all kinds of lines you got, right? And here, and then here, all these things you got. Whereas in H1, when you looked at H1, the lines were pretty much like this, trying to concentrate. So there is not much variance here. So this is a lesser number, lesser, and this is lesser. Okay, so what happens? So total, of course, H1 wins. So if I were to again write down expected value of E out of GD is equal to bias of H1 plus variance of H1 plus sigma squared. Okay, so now how each of the things affects. So if I choose a more, so what happens? So let me write in the next page.
Sir, could you also please write the bias and various terms themselves so that we can see what?
Okay, so that we can do. So let me just copy that over here. Okay, so okay, so this is what it was. So now, so if I increase the model complexity, right? So what is model complexity? Basically, I'm saying my hypothesis H, right? Hypothesis bag. Okay, if I make it more, if I add things into my hypothesis bag. So suppose if I'm able to increase my model complexity, what will it do to the bias?
Decrease it.
What does anybody has another view about this?
Reduce.
Hello?
bias will decrease if we increase the complexity.
Isn't it? Because when you increase the model complexity, you will be able to, the average one will start performing better. So this will decrease this. Okay. And what about variance? If I increase my model complexity, what will it do to the variance?
It may or may not increase, right? Because in this case it increased, but
See, model complexity, if I am adding, what I am doing essentially is I am making this GD, more and more possibilities are coming here, right? See, this is the average. When I add more model complexity, I am able to fit f of x better. Okay, but if I have too many things in my bag, this GD minus G will tend to increase because any of these things will start coming.
yes.
Okay, so basically this will also increase. Okay, if I increase my model complexity, this will also increase. So this is what is the key step. Okay, so if you are choosing, let's say, a very complicated model, let's say you are using a state-of-the-art neural networks, so what you will get is very low bias. Okay, the expected value of in-sample, like bias is like what is the average hypothesis, how well is it able to fit your problem. This will come very low. Okay, but it will increase the variance. Okay, so let me just also add some of this as well. Okay, so let us so now this is the stochastic noise. So what happens if noise increases? So noise increases. Okay, but let's say the H is fixed. Hypothesis bag is fixed, but I'm just increasing noise. So of course, the noise term, when you increase, the noise term will increase, right? So noise term will increase, but what happens to the bias and variance?
Hi.
Sorry?
So
Yeah.
if you
The
increase the
variance should
noise,
increase, I think.
Hello?
Sir, I think variance should increase.
Variance will increase, definitely. What about bias? Hello, am I there?
Depending on the mean of the noise.
Yeah, so mean of the noise is 0. Very good. So that is what I wanted. So mean of the noise is always 0. Okay, so this doesn't change much because I have not emphasized it enough. But epsilon is noise, but expected value of epsilon is 0. Okay, and the variance of epsilon is what I'm increasing. Okay, but if your mean is 0, it really doesn't change the bias much. Okay, what it will end up doing is it will increase the variance. So if you take the sinusoidal case, right, and if you add some noise, you will get lines which were not there before. Okay, you will get lines. So I know I am not able to draw this. Okay, something like this. You'll get this line which was never there before. Okay, it was there, but this line didn't come so many times, right? So this kind of lines will start coming. So as a result, variance will increase. But since the epsilon is like 0 mean, it will not change the average. That will remain more or less where it was before. Okay, so yeah, so these are like some of the things that comes from bias variance trade-off. So if you really want to, yeah, so another picture that you can keep in mind if you want to do. So let us say, so this is an interesting picture. So this is like a low complexity model. Okay, and then another picture you can have is of high complexity. Okay, so let us say in both the cases, my f that I want to learn is these 2 points. Okay, so I want to learn an f which is these 2 points. However, the bag I chose, since if it is a low complexity bag, I will have a small space over which I am searching. Okay, and I will get some point which I will get. This is my average. Okay, so this difference here, this is a pictorial representation. Okay, so this difference is the bias, and since this is a small model, the variance will not be so much. So the variance I may just go be somewhere here. So this is the entire variance. So this is the bias and this is the variance. The variance will be small since I'm not having to search over a big bag. Whereas if I try to draw a similar figure for a high complexity thing, I may get a big space, okay, over which I'm searching. And then finally, my hypothesis that I eventually learn will be close to this. But my variance here will be large. I will do quite a lot of search here. Okay. Just a picture for you to remember what happens when you choose a high complexity versus low complexity. Okay. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
So these are the, let me just copy this thing over into a new page because I want to add a few things into this. Okay.
Sir, I have a doubt in the tutorial thing.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, in the low complexity model, if the red dot would have were in our search space only,
Yeah.
would it have made any difference?
Yes. If your target is also simple and if your hypothesis bag is simple enough to capture, of course, bias is also low, variance is also low. You are in the best world, right?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
So it depends on your model complexity, right? So what is the complexity of the sinusoid? Yes. What is the complexity of the sinusoid?
Sir, infinity.
Yes, because it's in the Taylor series expansion, it's like an infinite series polynomial. So the more higher degree you take, the better it is for you, right? But we ended up, if you have only 2 data points, then it is better for you to choose a constant hypothesis over a linear hypothesis, right? So this is your linear hypothesis space. Okay, so sorry, constant hypothesis space. There is not much variability, but there is a bigger bias. So that is what I was representing here. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Now it's clear.
Okay. So now let us do one more thing. So let us fix another thing we will do. So let us add this. Okay. So so suppose if you increase the data points. Okay. So if I increase the data points, what will happen? But H is fixed. H is fixed. My noise is fixed. So what will happen to each of the terms? So think of the linear hypothesis bag. Okay. So I will increase the number of data points. So what will it do?
Sir, the probability that each GD is closer to the actual f of x would be high.
Yes. So that means the variability reduces. Okay. Bias does not change much because the line can, after all, only fit sinusoid only in that way. Okay. There is nothing much it can do. This bias roughly doesn't change, but the variance, what you said, the probability that it is deviating too much, that will reduce because the other point will bring down the noisiness in that, right? Right? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So now we can draw what happens when we, just for the sake of completeness, let us just draw what happens if you look at, I hope, see, I'm just talking to 2 people who are responding here. I'm hoping the rest of you are following along because this is not too complicated, I would say. So yeah, and if there are any things that you need clarification, please jump in. Okay, so this is like not just important from the point of view of just studying the course, but it is also important when you go and deploy your models in an industry or your own company, or if you're doing research, you need to understand this concept. It's a simple concept itself. It's not really that complicated, but you need to understand this. Okay. All right. So if you were to plot this, okay. So let's try to, okay, let me choose a more nicer color. Okay, so let us say this is a simple model. So what is the characteristic of simple model? High bias and low variance, right? So what will it look like? High bias, the error is, this is the bias component. Okay, the variance is not so much. So this is my N. Okay, so I'm plotting E out. So I'm plotting basically E out as well as E in. Okay, so as you saw, if I increase the number of data sample, the variance reduces, right? So what will end up happening with E out? It will not be, first of all, too far from this is like the best performance you can get. No matter how many samples I get, I cannot change the bias. I cannot make a line predict a sinusoid very well, right? So, or I cannot make a constant predict a sinusoid very well. So this is like the limit of performance. This is how much I can expect. So basically what ends up happening is your E out will reduce, but it will not go below the bias term. So this is my E out. Okay. And how will it E in look? E in will be, see in the example that we saw for linear hypothesis, right? There was E in was not 0 anytime, but yeah, so it will be some number, low number, but it will be less than E out. But as and when you start getting more points, it will start climbing towards the bias term. Okay, so this is E in. Is this okay? Does everybody understand why these figures come? Okay, for complex models, how does it behave? So complex models, the performance level will be lower, right? So this is that bias thing. So if you look at when I am given 2 points, and if I try to fit a linear line, the E in was 0, right? So it will be 0, and again it will start climbing up towards this bias term. Whereas E out will be bad, really bad. But as and when you give more and more data points, so if you see here, we concluded that variance of H reduces, right? Whatever Siddharth said, the probability that it differs too much is minimized, right? So that means variance is reducing, right? So that one, what role does that play? That really starts bringing down the E out. Okay, so this is what is called as learning curves. Okay, so I think we have covered a lot of ground in this class. So if there are any questions, you must ask me at this point. So can I just look at the chat and have a quick survey? So does everybody understand what has been discussed so far?
Sir, can we see the E in again?
Yeah. So the rest of you, please keep typing in the chat so that I know where you stand. Okay. Nobody has typed anything. Is it clear?
So En started off low and then it increases with the number of.
Yeah, because so this is so if you look at the sinusoid, right? So if you look at the constant, so you have the sinusoid example. So you have something like this, right? So when you are given 2 points, I will take a midpoint of that. But when you are given 3 points, right? So you may get something like this. So if you really do the experiment that I am suggesting, so you take this code, okay? So in this code, you change n equal to 3 and you start looking at the lines. Okay, so what will end up happening is you will it will be more and more difficult for you to fit. Okay, you may not understand for linear, but at least for, you may not understand for constant, but for linear with 2 points, what was the error, Rohit? What was the error for 2 points?
0, sir.
So when I make 3 points, do you expect 0 error?
No, sir.
So does it, yeah, it becomes more and more difficult to fit with your model, the set of points that are given to you. That is why EIN increases. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about the others? Are there any questions?
Sir, why is it asymptotic to bias?
Because you saw here, right? So if I increase the data points, what is bias telling you? Bias is telling you like the average hypothesis, how well can it fit a sinusoid? Can you really improve that? Yes, can you improve that? Can you make linear fit a sinusoid if you are given more points? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Yeah, so that's why the bias term remains. So your expected value of E out is bias plus variance plus sigma squared, right? So you cannot eliminate bias. It will always be there. Okay, because even if you get the average hypothesis itself, the bias will always be there. See, variance is, right, see, as Siddharth, you said, I think, you said that as you increase the number of points, the chances of making errors reduces. So the variance keeps coming down. That is a perfect thing. So it may get to 0. But my claim is you cannot make a line fit a sinusoid even if you are given millions of points, right? Because that's a defect of your hypothesis bag. So that you can never remove. Yes? Does that make sense?
Sir, but it being asymptotic to bias means that as we are increasing the number of points, our hypothesis bag, like we are constantly choosing more of the model which is closer to our average.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
The case.
Exactly. So you try to, if you increase, if you, let us say we come back to this model, okay, I don't know if I can change the code and make it run, but if I think we could, but I don't know whether this is permits me to do that, but I will share this code. You put n equal to 5,000 or something, you will directly get this line. Okay. Yes. No?
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, you try it out. So what is the big lesson that we have learned? So if you are given more data points, then you are in this region. So you choose a more complex model. If you are given less data points, you better choose this, because in this region, E out is very, very high. Don't choose a complex model. So that is the whole picture here. Okay. So the same story we got from even when we learned from VC dimension. Okay, from the VC, what did we have? We said E out, right, is less than or sorry, it was not E out. What we called was risk of H is less than Rn hat of H plus some complexity term of the H and N, right? Something like this we had. Okay, so if you are choosing a complex thing, then this number will be high, this will be low. Okay, so in the same way, we are having the same discussion here now also. It is exactly the same. So bias is representing what is your performance on the average. Variance is telling what is the cost of your model. So that is something similar to this. Okay, so it's very similar. You go back and think over it. Okay, so the picture that we get from VC is very similar to the picture that we get from bias variance trade-off. Essentially the point is, if I fix an n, suppose I will fix a few n's here. Okay, so suppose this is n1, and let us fix another point n2, and let us fix another point n3. So let's fix all the points here, n3, okay, n2, and n1. Okay, so for n3, which model do you choose? Can someone type? Can everyone type in the thing whether you will choose simple, complex, or this one? So n3, what will everyone choose? Can you just type it in the chat box? Looking at this curve. Okay, very good. So n3 is simple, right? Because E out is somewhere It is somewhere in the Himalayas, right? N3. Yeah. So E out we cannot. So the E out is what we have to compare. So this E out is here. This N3 for this E out is at Himalayas. So we will choose simple. Okay. What about N2? N2, what do we do? N2. Yes. For N2, this error versus this error, what do you choose? Okay, so for N2 and N1, we will choose complex. That is easy to see, right? So what is it that we are doing? Our model, okay, our model, as I was discussing with Rohit or Siddharth, our model is a sinusoid which is very, very complex. Okay, so if you just try to think from the model means I meant our target, right? What we wanted to learn. So let me summarize. Our target. Oh, we are running out of time, so let me quickly finish. So our target was very complex, right? But the model we chose, model choice, okay, this actually depends on the resources that we have. Resources that we have is N. So the model choice does not depend on the target. If the target is very complex and I don't have too many points, too bad. I just have to choose based on how many data points I have. This is what we get from VC, this bias variance. Similar thing we got from even VC dimension, right? I said that you have to choose a model which is like 10 times the dVC of H. I should have N which is greater than 10 times dVC of H. So this model choice actually depends upon how many data points I have. Okay. So that is the key point in both the discussions. I hope everybody understands this. So tomorrow I will just finish this discussion. I will just do a small example on what it means to do regularization. We will look at validation and we'll quickly wrap up this. And on Wednesday or on Thursday, we will do SVM. So that is the plan. So bias variance trade-off is almost over. We just need to define a few terms. Okay, and that will finish bias variance trade-off. So, okay, so that's it. So let me just stop here. So any one of you, if you have any questions, you can come back and ask. So thank you, everybody. All right. So I will see you all tomorrow, which is a special class. It's up to you if you want to attend, but the recording, I will make it available. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.